So we have Rikke Ennis, the CEO of REInvent, and Helene Aurø, the Sales and Marketing Director. Please take a chair. Thank you for being here. I think most people in the room will know that REInvent exists, but it's still quite new, and you've really ramped up quite quickly. So we're looking forward to hearing what's happening, what shows you're working with. Yeah, maybe we could just start with where you're at REInvent now.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for inviting us here. It's been a super exciting time the last 6 months. It's been going fast, and it's really nice to suddenly see your idea crystallize, that you have a home for great ideas, and then seeing that it's actually becoming a reality. So I think we're in a pretty good place. As most of you probably know, I came from the distribution business, had a wonderful time at Trust Nordisk. Also was very lucky to bring with me a few projects from Trust Studio. So that, of course, gives us a head start in packaging. So that means with a little bit of luck and good energy, we might be having 2 shows in productions this year.
Which is
so
great.
That's amazing.
For a new
that's
company.
Really great.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, of course, when I started belly dancing to Helene in April, I think that was, and actually having her come aboard, it suddenly became very clear that we had, the full scale synergy that we really wanted, because I think that's really where we differ a little bit.
So the financing, packaging,
absolutely,
sales. Yeah.
Absolutely. It goes very much hand in hand. It's difficult to look at a great idea without having to think financing. And when you think financing and, of course, finding that anchor, whether it's a platform or broadcaster, you also have to bring, of course, international sales aboard. So working that and using that synergy feels amazing. And then, of course, myself coming from the feature film, Helene from TV series, it's a good match. We know the talent. We like to work with people we know and have known for the last 20 years.
And you know a lot of people. So
we know a lot of people. It's been decades. Not getting any younger, but hopefully more experienced.
Yeah.
So
and you're not doing any feature films right now. It's all episodic for now.
Well, you could say in packaging, we actually do have a few feature films, and we're doing a few with Trust Nordisk.
Okay.
So we are developing together, and Trust Nordisk will be selling.
Okay.
As they do.
But in terms of sales, it's series.
In sales, it's TV series.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have decided to focus on the Nordic TV series, so we're specializing in that. And then we're letting some more experienced sales companies do the feature films for now. And it's fiction that we're focusing on. I've been doing documentaries and formats for years as well, but for now it will be the Nordic fiction series.
Yeah. And tell us a few of the shows to give us an example of what you're working on.
Yeah, well, we have made an agreement with SF Studios, for instance, so we have around 6 to 8 series from them a year. One of them is the new nurses, when we're going to show you a clip whenever we can, from the 2nd season. And then we have a small series called Hashtag that we launched at MIPCOM as well. And we have just picked up, it was in Variety yesterday, that we picked up The Peacemaker, which is for Wiley, is one of the N12 productions, a Finnish production. And that one will go into production April, it is. So that's a new series coming out, and it was also announced that we have one of the first series coming from the Faroe Islands. And that one will be pitched at the Drama Series Days in Berlin. And then we just picked up an Icelandic that's new as well. Comedy series from Glass River, and there is more on its way. So I think we'll have around 12 series a year, maybe a little more.
What's the Icelandic series? Is that the one that's also in somewhere tropical as well? No, different one.
That one I can't say that yet. But we did actually make the agreement, but it's comedy.
Okay. Should we have a little look at because yesterday, of course, we talked to the team from the writers from New Nurses, who were nominated last night. So we have a little bit to show from season 2 I believe.
It's, 2 clips that we actually have from season 2, and of course this series is very different from what you've seen. We tend to say Nordic noir, but this is more Nordic bright, I would say. It's heartwarming, it's filled with love, and you just fall in love with the characters.
Should we play both clips together?
Yeah, I think you can run both clips if we're running late on time.
Okay. Yeah, let's play both clips, Jenny. Thanks. So that's quite happy.
It is really, really happy.
Are buyers looking for happy? Are they
Yes.
looking for warmth right now?
Yes, they actually like that as well. Now, it's not only that they like. I mean, crime and Nordic noir is still doing really well. But this new Nurses, it has been sold to Spain, the Benelux, ex-Yugoslavia, Latin America. And actually, Brazil has bought a lot of the series in the past. As I think it was Lena who asked before. And we work with ICM partners regarding the English-speaking remake in the US. So yes, it is really picking up.
Great.
Yeah.
And in terms, we've heard some of what you're working with. What are you not looking for? What are you avoiding?
Porn.
Okay.
No porn.
No porn.
Yeah.
And there's money to be made there, just not by you. Yeah.
I guess not original stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds pretty
Derivative,
obvious.
yeah.
But really, I think it's about finding that story with a twist that just stands out, because I think that's something that we've been hearing yesterday and today. There's so much content out there. So what do you do to do something differently? How do you think in a new way and just add a different ingredient to the story? It's not easy, and it takes the best talent and the best teams, and I think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. And if somebody comes to you early enough with something that you think needs a bit more finessing, you're in that process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're very much into the process. I mean, just now for the project from the Faroeways, we're pretty much sitting in day-to-day workshops, just massaging the story, not taking away the originality, but supporting the creative team, the scriptwriter, just, trying to give a good and secure space where, he can feel safe and with the best help possible.
Supported as well.
Absolutely. And of course, financially as well, with development money, that's pretty important if you want to get started. So that's something we're into too.
And have you worked yet with a Netflix or an Amazon on anything, or is that something you're...
That is still to come.
Okay.
That's very exciting, but we hope in the near future. I mean, you've been working on actually...
Yeah, in the past,
projects.
yes. Yeah. And Lena and I, we have a few meetings that we have set up, but never know. It takes time. For every series to travel and to get sold worldwide, it does take time. And especially if it has to be with the financing, it can take a year or even a year and a half. So you need to be patient, yeah.
And what is the market looking for either of you?
What
is the market? What do buyers want?
Well, I think some of them are in here, so I hope I say the right thing, but they still would like to see a lot of the crime, police, thriller, but also the really good, strong dramas like Arvingerne, The Legacy we've seen in the past, the DR, Liberty. I mean, these stories really travel because the audience can relate to them. So I think it's just the stories that will entertain you, but at the same time moves you.
We just saw clips now, for example, of Gösta. I mean, which is very bright, very sweet, very different from what we've seen. And I think there's an openness towards something quirky and awkward, which is new.
Yeah.
It might take a little time to introduce, but I think buyers and distributors are very curious to see something new. So it's a broad, you could say...
Has to feel fresh.
It has to feel fresh, yeah, absolutely.
In some way.
Yeah, and then of course we try to make, first of all, the original travel, and then the market for the remakes is also picking up, not only in the US, but in a lot of the European countries as well. So I think that's another trend that we see.
And are you working at all in English language You've got one in development.
Well, we have one in development right now, actually with the Academy, and Make It Happen in France, and that's pretty advanced right now. That's primarily English speaking.
Last Light,
yep. Based on a best-selling book by Alex Scarrow, and that actually ended up being a very, you could say, English story, but based in Paris. We're not selling that. New Ennis, actually, because that was even before we got started also. And also, due to our extremely Nordic touch, very important to underline, that would not feel right to start out with like a very English-speaking story. So really what we're looking for and what we are branding and putting a lot of effort into is the Nordics. Branding the Nordics and trying to put, you know, the Nordic content up to a pedestal and really working around it, both marketing-wise, but also having that very close contact with both the producers, talents, scriptwriters, cast, everyone.
And, you know, you've both worked with the Nordics so much. What do you think is so special about the talent here, the voices that come out of the Nordics that you want to bring to the world?
I mean, it feels like repeating oneself sometimes, you know, because everybody's talking, it has to be so local with that unique story and the storytelling, the depth of characters. But I think one thing that is super interesting, especially now working on a more international co-production, is the pace. That we are not as fast-paced and as in some territories.
In terms of the storytelling?
In terms of the storytelling. And I think that, you know, at some point might be actually an advantage because you get to dig into the characters in a different way. It's not so plot-driven. I think that's one of our key strengths. And then I think we've had this amazing chance of actually getting so exposed to the world for the last probably 10, 15 years with the TV series from DR, being branded from back in the dogma days, from feature films. So I think the, how do you say, I mean, the self-worth and, you know, the attitude is there to actually expose oneself.
There's a confidence.
The confidence, exactly, yeah. And then also people are getting used to listening to Scandinavian languages, which is amazing.
Yeah, the language, I think the Danish series were the first actually to be subtitled in the UK and the US. And then they started going into the Swedish series, Norwegian, now we have the Finns, we have the Icelandic. Soon we'll have a series from the Faroe Islands in the Faroese, in another language again. But I think in most places they are now used to it, and the stories they're local and they're unique, and they're really, really good storytellers. And I think that's why it can travel, and why they all touch the audience in other countries, even in Brazil or in the States, Australia. We've been everywhere with them, so they asked for them, yes.
And maybe tell us a little bit just logistically, again, that the business has grown a lot in the first, has it been a year? No. Not even.
Actually, we were just talking the other day. Well, 1st of June, we moved into a very weird neighborhood in Amager, just near to the airport, like a worn-down building. We got a good price, 500 square meters, but then suddenly, you know, as it got renewed, it was too expensive. So we just moved into the center of the city, Christianshavn, 150 square meters, but we are really growing fast.
Yes.
So I think we might be taking a few more square meters when that comes.
Yeah. Can you just mention a few people that have come on board?
Sure.
I think some people know them as well.
Well, I mean, apart from myself and Fredrik Nelson, that used to be at Film Cash, who's in charge of the finance part. He's the CFO. Helene, of course. And then we have Peter Lehn, that used to be at Trust, and Sophie Siboni, who is legal and creative. We have Isabelle Pichou, somewhere in the room, who is in charge of co-productions and also sales. Here we go. So and then we have Benedetta, that used to be at Centropa, but has been in charge of incentives and applications, and is very skilled with that. So we have a French and an Italian, and we want to be as international as possible, because really I think it gives the flavor of the business we're in. We look into co-productions, but if they're totally grounded in the Nordics and the story as well. So we will be growing, no doubt, but it has to be, of course, in the time that is needed. We don't want to grow too fast, but I think we might be adding a few.
We will be adding a few shortly. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And what would be your dream that something came across your desk? Like, do you want a hip-hop musical for 18-year-olds? Or is there something we're missing that you would love to see?
I have to say, when we had this little diamond from the Faroes come in, and we read it, Isabel introduced it, and we read it, and we said, this is not happening. This is just so crazy unique. This is what you talk about, but never see. We had a project yesterday pitched to us, not mentioning any words, but that is one where we said, okay, that's the next one. Oh. So sometimes you don't know what you're looking for, but when you hear it, that's when you know, Jesus Christ, this is all stakes, all in. Yeah. Okay. So let's see if we get it.
Yeah.
Anything that you would add to that? Just,
Yeah, you're saying what we would like more. I know that the Icelandic series coming out called Valhalla Murders, that's going to be fantastic. I worked on that at DR. I would like more of that as well. More like Valhalla Murders, and of course the DR series, they all have the double story, and they can really, really travel, and they are so important to get told. So more like that, of course.
Okay.
And we develop, of course, ourselves as well. So from, suddenly having an idea and, trying to add the best talent, the script writers, we have a few projects on our table that we have given birth to ourselves. So it's very nice to be able to be flexible and agile and just take fast decisions.
Okay. So if you've got a great idea, bring it to REInvent. Thank you, Helene and Rikke, for being here and telling us a bit more. Thanks.